Good morning, LCC kids, and happy Father's Day to all the dads who might be watching. Kids, if you didn't realize today is Father's Day, well, here's your last chance to make a card for your dad, to do something special, to honor him. We want all the fathers in our families to feel honored and to feel the encouragement from God today. And we're going to start off our time with a Father's Day themed game. It's called Real or Fake Father's Day Edition. And so you're going to see a fact, maybe a pretended fact, about Father's Day and have to guess, is this real or is this fake? Let's go ahead and put up our first one. Father's Day was introduced into American culture as a response to Mother's Day. Did Mother's Day come first and then they had to come up with Father's Day later? What do you think? Real or fake? Go ahead and give us your answer now. And the answer is, that is real. Basically, dads got jealous of the love that moms deservedly were getting. All right, next one. Father's Day is the third biggest day for sending greeting cards. Do you think that's real or do you think that's fake? Again, hopefully you've got some kind of card for your dad. Go ahead and tell us. All right, let's check it out. That is fake. It's in order. First Christmas, then Valentine's Day, then Mother's Day, and then fourth is Father's Day. Hey, dads, we still made the list. It's okay. All right, next one. Father's Day was first celebrated in the state of Washington. I don't know. Not Washington, D.C., the state of Washington. Is that where Father's Day found its origins? Tell us, real or fake? And the answer is, that is real. And we don't have anything witty to say about that. Sorry, nothing funny to add. Moving right along, final question. The necktie is the most popular gift given to dads on Father's Day. In fact, it's even in our Father's Day edition real or fake logo right there. So what do you think? Maybe you got your dad a necktie. I don't know. Tell us. That is real, though. Did you get your dad a tie? Well, maybe that's not as much in common these days. Well, you have played Real or Fake Father's Day edition. And again, we want the dads to be encouraged with the care of God. But we're going to be learning today a story. We're going to be continuing our story of a certain person in the Bible who had a bit of a tough time with his dad. He had a difficult relationship with his dad and with his brother as well. But something that this guy liked to do, and maybe you like to do it with your dad, was he always enjoyed a good wrestle. All right, we're continuing to talk about Jacob. And the theme of our story today has everything to do with wrestling. And we're going to learn about two people in this story who are wrestling. And the first is that Jacob wrestles. If you remember from last week, all the way from the very beginning, when he is inside of his mother's womb with his twin brother Esau, they are moving around, they are wrestling with one another. And when the time comes for them to be born, Esau comes out first. He's the oldest one by a little bit, but Jacob is grabbing his heel. Jacob is trying to trip him up. Jacob is trying to pull him back. Jacob is trying to do whatever he can to be first. And we saw that the name Jacob means somebody who grabs the heel, somebody who cheats, right? Maybe you've been in a game before where somebody cheated. They wanted to do something when nobody was looking in order to get ahead, to get first. Well, Jacob did this a lot, actually, in his story. In fact, we saw how last week Jacob cheated his brother out of the birthright that Esau deserved as the firstborn. Esau made the mistake of selling away his birthright just for a single meal that Jacob had prepared. But Jacob always wanted to be first, and yet he was always living in the shadow of his brother. Maybe some of you might have a sibling, a brother or sister who's older, who might be smarter, who might be able to run faster, who you might feel gets more attention than you, and you feel left out. You might know how Jacob feels. Or maybe you don't have any brothers or sisters, but you have classmates or friends, and you know what that's like, to feel like you're always catching up. You're never first across the finish line. They are the ones who get applauded and not you. And we don't like the way that feels. Jacob didn't like it either. And so he was always wrestling his way to the top from the very beginning. In fact, Jacob was aware that he wasn't his dad's favorite. I mean, can you imagine that? A dad who says he has a favorite, right? And you're not it, right? Jacob's dad, Isaac, loved Esau, and Jacob's mother loved Jacob best. And so that's not really a good experience for a family to have that. And so Jacob tricked his brother again, and he pretended to be him. He went in when it was time for his father, Isaac, to give blessing and to grant inheritance to the firstborn son. That's how it would work in the ancient world. And Isaac, his eyesight wasn't very good because he was old. Jacob came in and he was wearing fur, pretending to be his hairy brother. And he was wearing clothes that would smell like Esau. And he pretended to be somebody that he wasn't in order to cheat his brother out of the blessing. That's all Jacob wanted. He wanted blessing, and he was willing to cheat and wrestle and grasp and take in order to get it. Jacob lived a life of wrestling, and we're going to find out in a moment how God met him in that wrestling. But let's take a break real quick, and we're going to play a game. It's called One-Handed Odds. And Mr. Stephen Mackey is back with me in studio. Go ahead and take it away, Mr. Stephen.
Hello, LCC kids. All right, let's play a couple of quick rounds of one-handed odds. Here's how it's going to work. On the screen, you will see a hand. That hand is going to put up a number between 1 and 5. You have to match the number that you think the hand's going to land on. Let's see if you can beat the odds. All right, so get those hands ready and be ready to put up a number between 1 and 5. Let's spin the hand. All right, be ready. Stop. 3. If you got a 3, you have beat the odds. Now, if you put a different number, I'm sorry. Let's see if you can try again this round. Let's get another spin. All right, be ready. 1 and 5. A 1 in 5 chance. Stop. Oh, if you put 1, you're a winner. Now, if you got 2 in a row, you have really beat the odds. I don't even know those odds. Those odds are too complicated to calculate in my head right now. But let's see. For a third round, spin that hand. All right, ready and stop. 2. If you put a 2, you're a winner. Everyone email Mr. Evan with your scores to see if you really beat the odds or not.
Thank you, Mr. Stephen. Great job, kids. That has been one-handed odds. And maybe you've heard somebody say something like, I can beat you with one hand behind my back before. It's a way that people can issue a challenge. Well, we're going to see Jacob have to wrestle in this story with just one leg working. And we'll come to that in a moment. Our second point is that God wrestles. Jacob wrestles, and God is going to wrestle in this story as well. But when Esau found out that Jacob had cheated and stolen away his blessing, Esau says, I'm going to go get that dude. I'm going to beat him up. And so Jacob runs for his life. And he moves away, and he meets a man named Laban, and he basically meets his match in this dude Laban, because as good of a job as Jacob has been at being a con artist and a cheat, Laban does one better in stealing from him and tricking him and making his life really hard as a result. And so Jacob comes to a point with his family, and we don't have time to go into all the details on that part of the story, but he decides, we're going to come back home now. And Jacob is aware, he finds out that Esau, his brother, is coming out to meet him. And Jacob is afraid. His past is catching up to him. And he comes onto the shore of this river called the Jabbok River. And if you think Jabbok sounds like Jacob, you're right? They sound the same, but Jabbok means twisting, wrestling, torn up on the inside. That's how the river looked, and that's kind of how Jacob feels inside of him as well. And there's this moment of suspense that's building, and then it seems like in the middle of nowhere, all of a sudden, Jacob once again finds himself in a wrestling match. Here's what the Bible says in Genesis chapter 32, verse 25 says, when the man that Jacob is wrestling with all of a sudden saw that he did not prevail, he did not win against Jacob, he touched his hip socket, and Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. He's got one working leg now. Then he said, let me go, for the day is broken. But Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. And he said to him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob. Then he said, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel. For you have striven with God and with men and have prevailed. That's what the name Israel means. You've wrestled with God. Then Jacob asked him, please tell me your name. But he said, why is it that you ask my name? And there he blessed him. So Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, saying, for I have seen God face to face, and yet my life has been delivered. Jacob came to realize that the man that he was wrestling with, the man that he demanded a blessing from, the man that touched his hip and put it out of joint and wounded him where he felt strongest, was actually God himself. God wrestled with Jacob. And all of Jacob's life, what he longed for most was blessing. He wanted blessing from his father. He wanted to have the success that his brother had. He wanted to even hear from his wife and his father-in-law, Laban, some sense that everything would be okay. But here he was trying to take by force what he was then given by the kindness of God in the form of this man. You realize that God wrestles against us for us. God is against our sin because he is for what's best for us. And sometimes he will put us in situations that aren't comfortable and that are hard and where we feel like we're not doing our best, and it's a big, big struggle, but it's a loving wrestling match where God is intending to bless us. And the place where we see this most of all is when Jesus came, when God was seen face to face in the form of a man. I love the way that this pastor, Timothy Keller, puts it. He says, in the darkness with Jacob, God pretended weakness in order to save Jacob's life. Right? That was just, God wasn't really weak there. Jacob wasn't really winning. God pretended to be weak in order to save Jacob's life. But in the darkness of Calvary, on the cross, the Lord appeared as a man and became truly weak to save us and to bring his blessing to us all the days of our lives and into eternity. We often wrestle through life. We try to get things that we feel we deserve. We don't like the ways that we've been treated, that we feel it's not fair. That's not fair. No, I need that. And all along, God has come to us And he wrestles against us, for us, and ultimately through his son, Jesus Christ, the great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson of Jacob, would come and we would see the face of God. And through his death, through his weakness, and through his victorious resurrection, we would have the blessing of God forever. That's good news. It's good news for families. It's good news for fathers. It's good news for you kids. Trust him, believe in him, and obey him all the days of your life. And we will see you next week for LCC Kids.